button that says go to parent portal.
Hi there. Thank you for joining me on this walkthrough of the Arpa Stabilization Subgrant Monitoring. Today, I'm just going to walk you briefly through the tool that we're going to be using. If you're watching this recording, most likely you have been randomly chosen to have your grant monitored. When we started this process back in April of 2022, this year, we put a lot of emphasis on the fact that this program would be heavily monitored. So we appreciate you working with us on this, and we're going to make this process as easy as possible. So this recording is just to help walk you through and get you prepared for what will happen next in this process and to make you more comfortable. We are here to help you, and we are here to make this a smooth transition. And we're also available for questions after you are done watching this recording. So thank you. And right now I'm going to share my screen and show you the tool that we're going to be working with you on. So right now what you're looking at is the Arpa Stabilization Subgrant Provider Application Monitoring Tool. This beginning page, and I'm going to scroll through these pages one by one. This beginning page right here is telling you all about it, what our timelines are. As you can see here, the first set of monitorings will start August 15th and will end September 30th. And then the coalition is charged with doing monitorings every quarter for the duration of this grant. So providers are chosen at random to participate, and we will connect with you if you're one of those chosen. Monitoring is just what it sounds like. So we're going to be asking you for backup documentation for the pieces that you have spent money on. So your receipts, we're going to ask you for other backup documentation that we're going to go through in just a few minutes here. If we find anything that is non-compliant, we will work with you to create a corrective action plan as outlined in this area right here. So this is the tool that we will use. Our team will go through it, and really most of it is a desk review. And what I mean by that is that we will be able to look at everything that you've already uploaded in BlueJean or have connected with your application already. And we'll have a lot of this completed, and you'll get a letter though. As we start this process, you'll get a formal letter via email and uploaded to BlueJean telling you every piece that we need from you. And it walks through this process just like I'm going to do with you today. So section 1 is your general application information. Most of this should be everything that you already told us. Going to make sure that your application that you originally submitted for this grant has the correct provider type marked, if you were Gold Seal, if you indicated the correct class score in your application, and if you completed accurate days and hours of operation on the application. These things are checked because all of them have a monetary value within the grant process. So this was question 5 from that first section. If you were a provider that operates non-traditional hours, such as a 24-hour center, then we would double check that that was entered correctly in your application. And then here in the comments section, we would put any comments that may result in a finding or anything that we need to gather more information from you on, we would enter it there. Section 2 talks about your operational status. So the types of programs you delivered, school readiness, VPK, Head Start, we're checking those things. And also looking to make sure that you are eligible and we're in the right fiscal year. So we're going to go through and answer all of these questions. Section 3 is the child count information. This is really, really important. This is where we talk to you about uploading pieces, backup documentation to BlueJean for the enrollments at your site. So those providers that if you claimed that you had 15 school readiness kids at the time of your application, then that's what we would expect to see is that backup documentation uploaded to BlueJean. So if there's a discrepancy in that, we will work with you to find out why, and we will see if there will be a corrective action plan as a result of that. The next session, and this actually mimics what the tool is that when you completed your application to begin with. It talks about the ages of the children. This first column is the total children enrolled. The second column here is if you're a Head Start provider, and this third column separates out your school readiness children from the totals here in these two columns. You'll probably recall that, and it probably looks really familiar from the first time you filled out your application. If we find any discrepancies, this comment section is the same as for the previous section. This is where we would put the question items so that we can review them with you and see if we can correct it if there is any error. Section 4 is your current average monthly operating expenses. So this section is important. This section, you may recall back when we were working with you to come into our office for the initial application process, we went through your budget. We gave you a little worksheet that you could do. A lot of providers went ahead and estimated their monthly expenses, used 2 or 3 months to come up with an average, and went ahead and kept that worksheet. If you're using your payroll as your operating expenses, you just need to choose one of these things: payroll, benefits, other personnel costs, your rent or mortgage, invoices, receipts, facility expenses, PPE, cleaning supplies. You have to provide one of the things in this area. So you will have to look into that, and we will be asking you to provide some sort of backup documentation of your average monthly operating expenses. A lot of providers are finding it's easiest to provide their payroll in this section. If we can't come up with backup documentation, we will put a comment in here, and we will look at adding something to your corrective action to help alleviate this for the next time around. Section 5, operations for fund use. Coalitions must obtain and verify documentation for the provider's expenditures reported on the most recent Arpa Child Care Stabilization Survey for each category. For example, if a provider reports $1,000 in personnel costs, the coalition will need to document that you did spend $1,000 in personnel costs. So you would need to upload backup documentation for anything that you put on there that you were spending money on, or anything that you did spend money on. And this is where we would mark whether or not those items were granted. Okay. So now we're moving down to the next portion of the tool, and it continues on with backup documentation for costs. So you'll want to look at these pieces and make sure that you have backup documentation for any amount of money, ARPA money, that you spent in these categories. And then right down here is where we will verify that we did collect the backup documentations for those and that they were allowable expenses. So hopefully there won't be any reason to put any comments here, because we know that you all kept all your backup documentation. Section 6 is a provider certification. Did the provider implement policies in line with guidance and orders from the state and local authorities? So this question right here was on the first application, and it's on your 90-day follow-up survey that you're getting for payment number 2. Basically, as a licensed provider, or if you're license exempt, you are following the guidelines of your licensing agent, whoever that may be. If you are a registered family child care home, then it may just mean that you are following those requirements that DCF has placed before you at your level of certification. And basically, it just says that you're following the rules as laid out through the CDC and with any other governing agencies that you have assisting you with staying legal, basically. The second question in this section is, did the provider continue paying at least the same amount of weekly wages and maintain the same benefits? So here we just want to make sure you didn't lay off any staff, you didn't cut any salaries, during this time, and that you are continuing to work within the requirements of this grant. This doesn't include, like, if you had to temporarily close for a little bit because you had a COVID instance or for another reason, that does not count as not meeting this requirement. You would still have, if you stayed open and you didn't you didn't lay off any staff and you didn't reduce their wages, then you would be able to put no here, which is what we're looking for. Or I'm sorry. Yes, and you would put yes here. And when you put yes here, it's asking for a verification. As in the previous section, if you're using your payroll back as backup documentation for what you use the money on, then that would count for this too. Arpa Stabilization Subgrant Provider Application Monitoring Tool. This is, did you provide any relief from co-payments and tuition payments? If you did waive any of those fees, then you are going to have to provide verification. If you didn't waive any of those fees, we would need a statement from you saying why you chose not to do that. So I encourage you to read this paragraph and make sure that it is, that you answer for yourself in the way that best meets what you did for your business. And then we're getting towards the end of it, monitoring review acknowledgements. This is where our team will put compliant or non-compliant, follow for corrective action required. If it says yes, then we will work with you to create a corrective action plan, and it will be measurable, and we'll have a due date, and we'll have results, the date that we gave you the results, and then any follow-up pieces will go in here. We will sign it to provide you with a completed copy of it. And then this just talks about, this is part of the tool, but it just talks about how many providers each coalition, because all of us across the state are having to monitor providers. And it's based on the number of providers that we have. So in Marion County, every quarter, we have to monitor at least 3. So please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. You can contact me, Elizabeth Diola, at ediola@elc-marion.org, or by phone at 352-369-2315, extension 234, or you can reach out to our general quality at elc-marion.org email address, and we'll make sure that we get back to you. You'll also have contact information for Latricia Sims in the letter that will be sent to you directly. It'll be uploaded to your BlueJean account and it'll be emailed to you. So hopefully we gave you some good feedback on, I'm coming back to you now, some good feedback on how to handle this monitoring process, and hope that if you have any questions, you reach out to us. Thank you. Bye-bye.